I work in healthcare,
Good.
and I
Do you have anything in your pocket?
one of the things that I do is I work with a small group of displaced individuals teenagers mostly, who have been taken away from their homes because of addictions like alcoholism and drugs. And one of the things that they have to do in the facility is to follow your classic, 12-step program, and they're being taught that they're alcoholics, and that's a disease, and they'll forever never have that disease. And I find this contradiction in myself in that I want to teach them to do whatever makes them feel best, but for them, very often that means drinking a bottle of vodka, or I don't think they should be labeled with a lifelong disease. It seems to limit their choices and ability to move forward. But on the other hand, by telling them, do whatever feels best for you, half of them will be running out in the street, or even if they just say, oh, I'm just going to have one drink because it makes me feel better, inevitably they end up having 12 or whatever. And then it just continues this cycle, which makes them worse and worse, even though their original intention was, I'm doing this because it makes me feel better.
Do you know the steps?
Well, the first one is that they have to admit that they're powerless over alcohol and that their lives have become unmanageable.
Can't be helpful.
No. And that's the most important one. I mean, they have to admit that they have no power over their own lives.
We cannot see how that can be helpful, can you?
Mm-mm. But on the other hand, it does very often, if they stick with the program, they will stop drinking, at least for periods of time. And, some of the people that come in and volunteer have been sober for 30 years, but they're still terrified of ever even, smelling alcohol, because they're sure that they'd be, right back there. So it's, I'm having trouble with how to approach that.
What's the second step?
You would ask that. Anybody? Admitting that, huh? That's it.
I didn't get to hear that one.
I came to believe that there is a power greater than myself.
Oh, we're waiting for you.
I came to believe that they are. I'm not going there.
The reason we're playing with you about this is because the most important thing to remember, first, we are not at all pushing against in any way the 12-step program, because for someone whose life is in a very unpleasant place, all of those steps are downstream. In other words, when you feel totally out of control, maybe it does feel downstream for you to admit that you're out of control. And to say, I hope that there's something, some power that's greater than me that will help me, because when your life is in a mess, that's the last moment in time that you really want to crow about how in control you are. So acknowledging that you are powerless is a downstream step. You see what we are getting at?
Mm-hmm.
What we've noticed about the program, and we've interacted with so many people who have been part of it, is that in the beginning, it is all downstream for them. But after a little while, when they begin gaining their balance, to say those same things are upstream for them. So it never really gives them the autonomy and self-control that they are all reaching for. Every single one of them felt not free when they began this process that evolved into the alcoholism. In other words, you're right. They turned to the alcohol or whatever it was because it seemed like a path of least resistance. It felt better to them than where they were. And there's something that we would like somebody to say to them about the rightness of that decision. But the whole program, and in fact almost everybody ever involved in it, stands and says something else to them. They stand and say, you were wrong to do what you did, you were not wise in what you were doing, and you should never ever do something again it's sort of like what we were saying earlier, how when a person feels not free and they innately and naturally turn toward anger, that the anger that they turn toward is the most natural thing in the world, but almost everybody would stop and say, your anger is wrong, your anger is misplaced. So when you're interacting with people that are experiencing the hugeness of disconnection, it's not an easy thing for you to teach them the principles from their place of strong disconnection. Something more overt and in their face is necessary. And it is easier to teach someone about action than it is to teach them about vibration. In an action-oriented world, it's easier to say to them, this alcohol is your problem, than your vibrational countenance is your problem. So we think, if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would introduce the 12-step program as the first 12 steps. And we would tell them there are 12 more. And the first 12 steps are about the action part of distancing yourself from something that hasn't been working. And then once you've sort of got that under your belt, then we would begin the next 12 steps, which would be about understanding that you are the creator of your own reality. And that while you've been saying in the first 12 steps that there is a power that is greater than you, there has never been a power that is greater than you. You just somehow separated yourself from that greater power. But it never left you. It never was forsaking you. It was always aware of you, reaching for you, calling you toward it. You just could not hear, but it was always there. The second of the next 12 steps would be, you are the creator of your own experience, and you are doing the best that you knew how to do every step along the way. You did the best from where you were that you could have done, and you can't go back and undo all of that. So now you have admitted all of that wrongdoing, and now you've made your peace with all of those people who you have wronged. This new second step says, I did the best that I could do then, and now I'm in a better place, and it will be easier this go around. The third thing in this new set of steps is, I am where I am. I am where I am. And where I am is all right, because it has to be, because it's the only choice I have. If where I am is not all right, then it's over for me. If where I am is not all right, then there's nothing else for me to do, because I can't get to where I want to be when I am condemning where I am. Not possible. You can't possibly turn downstream in condemnation of where you are. So I am where I am. And where I am not only is enough, it must be enough, because it's all I've got. The fourth step is, I am a worthy being who is an extension of source energy. And I came forth with powerful intention and got crossways of it. And when I got crossways of it, I went nuts. Because who I am is such a lover and such a knower of my own value. And when somehow along my physical trail, I lost sight of that, I could not abide in my own vibration. The split in me was too severe. And that's the reason I turned to something that was numbing. And while I will not turn to something that is numbing again, it is satisfying to know that when someone like me, who is pure positive energy, gets crossways of who I am, that it's going to be pain beyond pain that will require numbing. And I've never known anyone who would deny anyone some sort of a solution or solving of some kind of pain. Step 5 says, I will make peace with those who did not understand how I felt, for how could they? Everyone has their own emotional scale. Nobody could know what was downstream for me. Nobody could know what was a solution for me. And they all stood in such certainty that they were right when they couldn't possibly know. And so this fifth step in my second set of steps is my true acknowledgement of my powerful desire to forgive them. The first step demanded that I ask for their forgiveness. In this second step, I'm prepared to give them my forgiveness. I forgive them for not understanding me. I forgive them for trying to be my guidance when they could not. I forgive them for not paying attention to how they felt, so there was no way they could teach me how to pay attention to how I felt. I forgive them for not upholding the knowledge of the personal guidance system. I forgive them for everything that they did not understand about me. And it feels good in letting all of that go. The sixth step is I forgive all of them from this new point of view. I forgive them for not only not seeing me as I am, but for not seeing themselves as they are either. I allow them, which is more than forgiving, I allow them to be whoever they are, even if who they are being is critical of me. For I accept that they cannot see me accurately from their point of view. And I no longer need alcohol or drugs to numb the discord that I felt when I saw that I could not achieve their approval. I am giving up my need for your approval in this step. And in giving up my need for your approval, I have set you free. But more important, I have set myself free. The seventh step in this second set of 12 steps is, now that I'm more sure of who I am, and now I'm beginning to return to the eagerness of life that is innate within me, it is my promise to myself that even if I were to do something that formerly I thought was a mistake, that I'm determined that I will offer no self-condemnation ever again. This may be the most important step of all.